haven't done so yet, it's still a good idea to sign up for Notify LA on your phone for fire alerts and updates. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. Love is right here. Rest in peace, Roberta Flack. Just such a beautiful voice. Link told me in the DMs that the movie was Play Misty for me. That was Clint Eastwood's directorial debut. He chose Roberta Flack's song for his movie, and it made her blow up with the mainstream. I mean, but she is a legend in her own right. The first time ever I saw your face was that song. And she was classically trained. She was a singer, a pianist, and just an iconic voice. And I can't wait to hear what Tavis has to say. I never met her, never got to interview her, only listened to her music and admired the accomplishments, including those back-to-back Grammys, 6 top 10 pop hits, 10 R&B singles, duets with Donny Hathaway. Just really part of the texture of our lives. And at the age of 88, she makes her transition. Rest in peace, rest in power. Beautiful Roberta Flack. It is time for a Black Marriage Monday, because we're going to keep you up to date on what's going on with the 12 kinds of crazy that are happening in Washington. 64 flavors, 32 flavors of insanity. Some of which it's hard to say without laughing, but we're not going to obsess on it 24/7. We're going to go on with our lives. We're going to keep it moving. And today we're focusing on relationships because, well, they're important. Black Marriage Monday is what I call it, and I'm being joined today by a podcaster who does a thing called Rebuilding. It used to be called the Real Relationship Talk Podcast. It is specifically a marriage podcast meant to deliver inspirational and relevant advice to help restore hope, connection, and commitment to your marriage. And I'm sure this is true because even if you're not technically married, if you're in a long-term committed relationship, I'm sure a lot of these things apply. If you're looking for practical marriage advice that actually works, she says join her and her amazing guests on the podcast. She's also a marriage counselor. Dana Che Williams, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Dominique.
Yeah, thanks for coming into the space. What makes a person say, I think I'll be a marriage counselor and expert? I mean, it just seems like very fraught in a way. It's like, oh, so you know everything now. Oh, so now your marriage has to be perfect and all your relationships have to be perfect. And, it's not easy being married or being in a long-term committed relationship and doing it well.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of the great fallacy is that whether you're a marriage counselor or a marriage coach like I am, that your marriage is perfect. There are no perfect marriages. But what got me started in this work is because of the very problems that my husband and I were having. We got married super young. I was 18, he was 21. We really had no business getting married that young.
Wow.
And so, of course, we started having problems right away. We started trying to get help, and we really couldn't find just real people who were willing to be real about their own struggles. And so we kind of made a little promise to ourselves. If we ever got out of the marriage craziness that we were in, we would be that help that we were looking for.
Oh, that's sweet. And so how did you finally end up getting out of that quandary that you were in with your very young connection?
I mean, a lot of prayer, a lot of people praying for us that we didn't even know were praying for us. But then also just learning the skills. Marriage is work. We hear that all the time. People say marriage is hard. It takes work. And it takes work. We don't ever think, if you're going to go and apply for a job, that it's going to take some training. That you're going to have to learn some skills. But for whatever reason, when people get married, they think it's just going to naturally happen. You're just going to naturally end up in this healthy, happy relationship. And that's not true. So we had to learn the skills of communication. We had to learn the skills of forgiveness. We had to learn the skills of connection. What does intimacy really mean? And so once we devoted ourselves to learning, we read a lot. We did get eventually hooked up with a great marriage counselor that helped us through some things. But a lot of it was just shedding a lot of that those old beliefs that we had been taught as kids. We had to unlearn a lot of things that we learned in childhood. And so it was a long process of unlearning and relearning. And then that's why I call the podcast Rebuilding Us, because we had to learn how to rebuild from the ground up.
Yeah. I mean, well, it says in all the fairy tales, they lived happily ever after. So I think we kind of think that comes with it. You say, I do. You have a big party. Post it all on social media, and then you live happily ever after. Isn't that how it goes?
If only. If only. And that's the thing, is that we've been duped by Disney and by, culture to think that marriage is supposed to be happy. And I often say, yeah, of course, we all want to be happy, but that should not be your primary goal. Happiness is an inside job. So if you're looking at somebody else to make you happy, or if you're looking to get married thinking that you will eventually be happy, then you're already on the wrong track. So when you learn how to be happy within yourself, when you learn how to do the work within yourself and then learn how to make someone else's life better, that's really the secret. It's not about me being happy and me getting all my needs met and me being all the things that I feel like I need to be through this person, but it's learning about how do I become a person of love? How do I learn how to give my life to this person that I'm in eternal commitment with?
So you're not saying you shouldn't be happily married or you shouldn't be happy in your marriage. It sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying you need to bring your happiness to the marriage, that your happiness is your responsibility and it's meant to enhance the marriage. It's not that the marriage is supposed to fix all your problems.
Absolutely. Happiness is a byproduct. My husband and I, we got married, like I said, super young. And again, like everybody else, we wanted to be happy. But what we learned along the way is that as we did our own individual work, as we grew, as we matured, happiness came along. Happiness was like the icing on the cake. It wasn't the cake. And too many people spend too many years trying to find happiness, not realizing that it's actually a byproduct. Of course, your marriage should be happy. My marriage is happy. We want that. But
Yay.
That's not the main goal that you should be seeking.
I'm glad it's happy. It's not the cake. It's the icing on the cake. Got it. Right. Because if it is the cake, then as soon as you have an unhappy moment or interaction, then you think it's all over.
That's exactly right.
Ben Frank says the secret is love your wife. And Molly Bell says, I've been married 3 times. Too much information. My last name always ended in an ELL, like Molly Bell. But at 78 years, I will never marry again. You don't know that, Molly Bell. Somebody might be around the corner about to propose right now, for all you know. But I don't know. I have a bit of a reaction when people say marriage is hard, marriage is hard, marriage is hard. I myself have been married. I'm not at the moment. I'm not against it per se. But I kind of think in Sahar Ali was talking about in response to something totally different. But there is an aspect of focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Do you think that by running around saying marriage is hard, marriage is hard, marriage is hard, we manifest difficulty in our marriages?
Absolutely. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like anything else. I often talk about the weight loss analogies, right? Because I'm always on the struggle bus, trying to lose 15 pounds. But, if I go into the gym and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. Oh my goodness, my legs are going to burn today. Oh, if I go into it that way, it's going to be hard because I told myself that. But if I go into my marriage saying, yes, this is going to take work, like everything else in my life takes work, but this is going to be great. I'm going to grow. I'm going to learn. I'm going to become more connected. If I say those things, then those are the things that I'll experience. If I go into it with drudgery and burden and all of that, then that's what I'm going to get out of it as well.
All right. Well, this looks like a great conversation, and you're welcome into it. We're working on ourselves. We're getting those skills. We're doing the work, and whether it's hard or not. Dana Che Williams is my guest. It is a Black Marriage Monday, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I have a dream today.
From slavery and segregation to the Great Migration to our present-day rising. The Black experience in America is a story of resilience, achievement, and unstoppable spirit. This February, we're curating amazing conversations celebrating the heroes, the pioneers, and the everyday people who made history. Black History Month on KBLA Talk 1580. Together, we carry the torch forward.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, yeah, Molly Bell's stirring the pot. She said she'd been married 3 times. She doesn't. She asks whether you can be married too many times. Honey Brown says Elizabeth Taylor was married 9 times and married one of her exes twice. You are fine. I say, you're perfecting it, Molly Bell. As long as you're finding your joy and progress, then I don't think there's too many times. But anyway, I digress. We're talking with Dana Che Williams, marriage coach and podcaster. Can you be married too many times, Dana?
I believe you can. I really do. I don't believe that marriage is a try it out and let's see what works thing. I think that when you are willing to give your life to someone, I do believe, traditionally, historically, marriage is a covenant. And I do believe that when you just kind of, treat it as if it's not that serious, then again, it's almost like we were talking about earlier. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But just
And
because
if you go
someone's
into
marriage doesn't work out doesn't mean they didn't take it that serious. Someone could have died. Somebody could have been a drug addict. Someone could have been beating on you. Or it just was the wrong match and it just did not work. Or people change. I mean, I'm not saying we need to have 101 excuses, but I don't think we should just like assume that Molly Bell didn't take her marriage seriously just because she was in 3 of them, and just say therefore it's too many. You've reached the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't know Molly Bell and her situation, but I do believe that in our culture today, just in conversations that are around me all the time, it seems that a lot of people don't view marriage as a covenant anymore. It's just like, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And of course, there are those situations, adultery, abuse, addictive behavior, those things that will end a marriage. But I want to see our generation and our culture really honor marriage the way that our grandparents used to.
Yeah, you say our generation and our culture. Which generation is your generation?
Well,
because we got about
I'm
3 or 4 of them
end.
right now in our
This
chat.
is true. I should say our society, right? Our society. So I'm actually on the tail end of the millennials.
Okay.
I won't say my age, but you could figure that out.
Right. Millennial enough.
I'm in the early 40s.
I think, right. I think Molly Bell is the greatest generation. Or no, she might be a boomer, something like that. So anyway, the point is, you think we're not taking the whole deal seriously enough. You said skills. You said we need skills and we need to do the work. That kind of flies in the face of some of the marriage advice, like the 7-7-7 rule. You have to have a date night every week, a getaway every 7 weeks, a vacation every 7 months. Who can afford that? And that's the key to your marriage. Like a lot of the solutions and formulas that I hear about are doing things. Go on a date night, buy your wife flowers, write a card. And you're saying skills, not vacations. Or is it both?
I think those things, again, are great. I think that we do need to have rhythms in our marriage. But at its core, marriage is not about doing things. It's about being. And there's too many people who do not focus on the being part. And so you can do it. You can find a good marriage counselor. You can find a good marriage book, and they'll tell you to do all the things. But if you're not working on yourself, and if you're not working on who you are as a person, both spouses, then you're just going to be in a tailspin doing all the things, but not really seeing results.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said we're responsible for our own happiness.
Absolutely.
So what does that look like in the context of a marriage or a long-term committed relationship?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, when you get married, you should have a firm understanding of who you are. Your identity is not rooted in somebody else or your work or what you do. Ideally, when you get married, you should have dealt with your past trauma. You should have dealt with your baggage that you might be bringing into. We all have some baggage that we're going to bring into the relationship, but at least you're aware of it. Hopefully you have done your work in that area. So those are the ideals.
So we should go to therapy before we get married?
Therapy is great, or premarital, some sort of coaching. For example, I'm also an ordained pastor, so I marry people as well. I will not marry a couple that has not gone through premarital counseling because there is just too many variables. There are too many side roads that you can take. There's too much hurt. There's too much pain. There's too much unknown. And it's interesting that, I have 4 children. I have 3 adult kids and a teenager still in the house. And we don't give kids a driver's license without them taking a test, having to go to some sort of driver training school, but we give out marriage licenses without any kind of training. And so when I'm talking about doing the work, I think a lot of that work should be done on the premarital side. But then once you get married, I do believe that you still need to continue to grow because now you're in a relationship with someone else who's also informing your identity and shaping who you are as a person. So the work doesn't ever stop. But again, it doesn't have to be begrudging. It doesn't have to be like hard work. It's work, just like, again, anything else. And that needs to continue through the life cycle of the marriage.
Quamel says, Gene Simmons of KISS once said, never get married more than twice. Sounds like a good rule to me. And Ben Frank says, King Solomon was married over 700 times. Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I, I guess I'm not struggling with what you say. I think it's right because that doesn't just apply to marriage. Other than the part about there's a limit on how many times, and I'm not saying that because I want to get married again. Not sure that I ever do, but just because I don't feel like it's my job or your position to be able to judge someone else and say you're at your limit. You know, that's your quota. And I think it's good for people, especially if their goal is to be married, to keep hope alive.
Yeah, it's not a judgment. I think for me, it's looking at the purpose of marriage. And so, I often say when we don't know the purpose of a thing, we'll misuse or abuse that thing. It could be anything. It could be a pencil, a computer. It can be a family, a spouse. When we don't know the purpose of something, we're going to misuse it.
So what's the purpose of marriage?
I believe that it comes back to what your values are. So I can say, in my faith, for example, I would teach that there is a purpose of marriage, which is becoming who God created you to be. If you are not someone of faith, or if you're just trying to figure out, why am I in a relationship with someone else, I still think that the purpose is for you to become all that you can be. And so, there's a scripture, but it's also a very well-known quote that iron sharpens iron. And so when you're in a relationship with anyone, that could be a friendship, that can be a marriage, a business partnership, you're supposed to be sharpening one another. You're supposed to be making each other better. And oftentimes when you sharpen each other, that creates tension. You're going to see sparks fly, and not necessarily the good sparks all the time. There's going to be issues. And a lot of times people run into those marriage issues and they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're going through this. And they'll tend to back away, whether physically or emotionally, they'll retreat instead of going into the sparks, if you will, and realizing that these problems are actually shaping us to become who we're supposed to be. I believe that is the purpose of marriage.
Yeah. Morris says, marriage, give me some context. Are our parents married? Is a couple from a community or two strangers coming together? Is Christ the center of your life? Give me some context. I think that's actually pretty smart thinking, Morris. I remember when I was on my honeymoon many years ago and we were in Cancun and I was ear hustling, listening to another young couple that had just gotten married. And the things they were talking about were things that you definitely should have talked about before you got married. Like, do you want kids? Do you have any debt? That kind of stuff. But it sounds more like what you're talking about is getting on the same page spiritually and emotionally. I do think, even if you haven't had those conversations and you are already married, at some point, you're going to have to come to some kind of agreement about the big things: money, sex, kids, and faith. I might be forgetting something, but those are the big ones that I think of.
Totally. And you can marry someone. My husband and I got married again. We were super young, so we did not have a lot of these mature conversations. We were kids. We didn't know what we didn't know. But thankfully, a lot of our values were already in alignment. But as we progressed through our relationship, we've had to revisit those conversations. We've had to ask ourselves, like, what are we doing here? Like, what is the purpose of our individual lives? What do we believe that is? And then how are we helping one another to achieve that? I think, again, and I said it before, but I really believe, Dominique, that's the secret sauce of marriage. When you see couples that have been married for 40, 50 years, my husband and I have been married for 25 years now. And when you look at couples who have been married for decades and they're actually like working, I'm not just talking about people who exist in the same house, but people who actually love each other and are working together. When you look at the differences between those relationships and relationships that don't make it a lot of times, it's because they've understood that I'm not just in this marriage for myself. I'm in this marriage to help you also to grow into who you're supposed to be. And when you have that revelation, it actually becomes fun. I think it deepens your impact, that you make, not just in your own relationship, but even your family, your extended family, people who are watching your relationship, people who see you struggling through problems, but then overcoming problems. That's super inspirational for a lot of people who are looking at you.
Yeah. I think that's right. You have to be in alignment on your goals. And I know there were a lot of things I didn't talk about before I tied the knot that, you're You would think I would, having talked to all these relationship specialists, shrinks, lawyers, et cetera, over the years doing radio shows. But once you're in it, you said you guys were in a pretty bad place. We only have a little over a minute here till news, traffic, and sports. We'll continue on the other side. But once you were in a bad place and then you guys started working on yourselves, how much of a difference did that make? Give me a sense of the before and after in your marriage.
Before, we were so disconnected. We did not know ourselves. We were like the ship without a sail. Once we did the work, we really found out what real connection was all about, and we had hope again that we could build something together.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll look at the how when we come forward. I think you said something key that I have friends that definitely are living in that scenario where they've been together a long time and they really function more like roommates than man and wife. Live together, but they're disconnected in their lives. They're disconnected in their intimacy and in their communication, but they quote unquote stay for the kids or they whatever other logic they have. And so I want to really look at how you turned your situation from disconnected to true connection when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Apple plans to invest $500 billion over 4 years in U.S. manufacturing, engineering, and education, focusing on AI and chip making. They will build a factory in Houston for AI servers and double their advanced manufacturing fund to $10 billion. An Apple Manufacturing Academy will be established in Detroit. New York City plans to close its asylum seeker intake center at the Roosevelt Hotel and other shelters by June due to a drop in migrant numbers. Over 173,000 migrants have used the center since spring 2023, but arrivals have decreased from 4,000 to 350 per week. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries urges Democrats to block a Republican budget plan, warning it could cut Social Security and Medicare and lead to government shutdown. And the How Black Men Smile Project is celebrating 10 years of Black joy amid attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
If you or someone you know is affected by the Los Angeles wildfires, you are not alone. No matter how sad, scared, or heartbroken you feel, CalHope is here for you and all those affected by the devastating wildfires. Find free, safe, and confidential mental health support at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA and USC women's basketball teams continue to stay on top of their game. UCLA, ranked 3rd in the country, won a close game Sunday at Iowa, 67-65. Alina Arnosalo sank 2 free throws with 3.8 seconds left in the game to seal the win. Lauren Betts had 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 block shots. USC got 22 points from Juju Watkins to hold off Illinois 76-66. Next up for USC is a rematch Saturday with UCLA at Pauley Pavilion. Congrats to UCLA men's basketball coach Mick Cronin. He earned his 500th career win Sunday in UCLA's 69-61 win over Ohio State. Cronin is in his 22nd season as a college head coach. The Clippers had a tough time in Indiana without Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell. They lost to the Pacers 129-111. The Clippers are at Detroit tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit CASMPvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money, or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce.
Fired but not forgotten. The Testimony Project. Bearing witness, breaking silence, building community. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to amplifying the voices of Black federal workers impacted by the mass firings. Rooted in the Black tradition of testimony, this initiative ensures that those who served us are not erased from history. Through firsthand accounts, investigative storytelling, and community-driven dialogue, we intend to expose injustice, preserve truth, and demand accountability. If you or someone you know has been forced out of federal employment due to the mass firings, please contact us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or via the open mic feature on the KBLA 1580 app. We want to hear from you and share your story. KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, we got guests this week, family. Tomorrow, Louis Dix will join me. Sharon Jenkins, the mother of Erskine Jenkins, will be in. Looking forward to hearing from Jerem Person-Lynn on Wednesday, among others. We'll talk to Attorney Carrie Harper on Thursday, updating us on her latest case, the Winco case and police abuse case and others. And, of course, Anthony Browder will join us for Freedman Friday. After that, we'll be hearing from Chris Lodson again as we go through the rest of those reparations bills. We got a lot going on this week, and I love it. I'm here for it. But right now, we are talking with Dana Che Williams. She is a coach, a marriage coach. She's a podcaster, and she is she's used the lessons from her own union to help others. We were talking about the before and after of your marriage when you guys committed to what you say is connection, from moving from conflict to connection. So let's talk about the how.
Yeah, I think one really important thing that people need to know, Dominique, is that a lot of us think that when we get married, we're just going to be connected, right? That's the default. But the truth is that disconnection is actually our default. And the way that I teach this with my clients or whoever I'm working with is that if you imagine like a canoe out on a lake, if that canoe isn't anchored to something, then just by the gentle breezes, just by the time that passes, that canoe is eventually going to drift away from the dock or from the shore or wherever it is. That's how marriage is. It has to be anchored to something, or by default, you are going to detach. You're going to disconnect. So the how do we do that? How do we stay connected? How do we stay tethered? I think that one, there's got to be a foundation of honesty, like just brutal honesty. Will Smith says, in his relationship with Jada, they are just brutally honest with each other. And sometimes that can scare people away. Like, what are you going to say? Are you going to hurt my feelings? Is what I'm going to hear from you going to be painful? But the foundation of honesty has to be in place. So if my needs are not being met, I need to be able to be honest about that and say, these are some needs that I have, and these are needs that I need you to meet. A lot of people don't do that. They have needs, and they're not honest about those needs. They never even speak about those needs. So when I'm working with couples that are, again, in the pre-marriage phase, we have a whole conversation about what are your needs. Because if you don't know them, and if you have not spoken them, then you cannot expect them to be met. So I think that's the starting place, is brutal honesty. And then from there, communication. We all know communication. Everybody talks about it. Everyone knows communication is key, right? Like, we all say that. But what does that mean? The truth is that we all communicate. Like right now, we're communicating. You're listening at this particular stage, I'm talking. At other times, I'm listening and you're talking. So communication is always happening. It's not a matter of whether a couple communicates or not. It's how effective you are in your communication. And so there's lots of tools that you can learn on how to be a good listener, on how to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas in a way that is going to bring peace to your relationship and not more conflict. And I, again, work with people through my conflict to connection course with that. But then I think the other missing key is intimacy. A lot of times we hear the word intimacy and we think sex, right? Like that's initially where we go. But intimacy is more encompassing than that. Intimacy is being known and being fully known, knowing someone else fully, opening yourself to that person emotionally, spiritually, physically, even recreationally, and deciding that I am not going to pull away when things get hard. I am going to come closer to you. That's intimacy, coming close towards someone. And so, obviously those are kind of, bird's eye view of some of these foundational principles. But that's how I would wrap up how my husband and I were able to go from a super disconnected marriage, how many of my clients are able to go from super disconnected marriages to now being fully connected.
Which is what I was talking about. The folks I know that are, they're logistically coordinating the kids, the house, the this, the that, but they're functioning as roommates. And we just played some Roberta Flack, Where is the Love? Because I see it so much, and it sounds like you think, one, you can get it back if it's gone somewhere, and two, it's not okay.
Right. I mean, no one wants to live that way, right? Like, if we're just going to be roommates, then we might as well just be roommates. Get a roommate that you like. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you're going to be married to somebody, it's not just about, we take care of the kids, we take vacations every now and again, we make a household work, but it's, can we find our way back to one another? And that is a scary road for a lot of people, because especially if you have not built your marriage on honesty, now you're having to be honest, first of all, with yourself, which is scary sometimes, and then you're having to be honest with somebody else. And what if you do tell them their needs and they still don't meet it? So now I'm feeling doubly rejected. And so it's hard for a lot of people to say, all right, I'm going to be willing to be completely vulnerable here and tell you I want our marriage to be better. Like, some of the clients that I sit with, I will ask them, have you told your spouse that you actually want your marriage to be better? And they're like, no. I mean, I figure they should know that. We're here, aren't we? And I'm like, why don't you look at them and tell them what your desires are for your marriage? It's the scariest conversation because, again, it forces people to be vulnerable. It forces people to uncover what's really down beneath the surface. And that's what I really like to help people to do is we learn how to cope. We learn how to put on the face. We learn how to protect ourselves. But what's really down in the core underneath all of that stuff?
Yeah, that can be scary. I hear from male friends of mine, y'all can't handle the truth. I'm not honest because I don't want to deal with the drama.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think a lot of people feel, even a few good men, right? You can't handle the truth, that
exactly.
iconic quote. But the thing is that I don't think most of us are not afraid of the truth. We're afraid of how the truth is presented. So I have a best friend, right? My best friend and I are absolutely honest with each other about everything. There are times that we have conversations that are hard because I know she's going to tell me about myself, or I'm going to have to tell her about herself. But because I know that she loves me and she is for me, I'm able to receive from her even when it doesn't always feel good. That's the thing in marriage that we want. We want to know, okay, I know that my spouse is for me. At the end of the day, they are ride or die. They are for me. And then I know that they love me. So what they're telling me, even though it might be hard to hear, is going to help me. Because again, going back to what I said earlier, isn't that the purpose of marriage, is to become a better person. So if I know that you're telling me something about my character, or you're telling me something about how I'm operating, how I'm behaving in this world,
or your needs, helpful, or your needs,
or my needs, right. Yeah, something that maybe I don't know, maybe I do know, and I'm just honestly neglecting your needs. You know, my husband would tell me at points like, you know, I feel like I'm on the back burner to your business, and that's a hard thing to hear because I'm like, wait a minute now, like. I love my business. Like, people are being served all over the world through my business. Like, you know, you said that you were on board with my business. So I could be defensive, or I could hear what he's saying. I feel like I'm on the back burner. Do I want my husband to feel like he's on the back burner? No. So now am I going to be willing to hear him out, look at how I'm running my business, my time management, and am I willing to make some changes? And the people that are willing to make the changes are the people who succeed. The people who have excuses and get defensive are the people who don't.
B. Bell said a couple things in the chat. One of them is truth only helps if you can accept it. So that means we've got to be willing to listen. I know another complaint I hear about men from men all the time is I can't read your mind, blah, blah, blah. And I hear from women, men don't listen. I hear from men, women don't listen. So we're talking, but we're not listening to each other.
Mm-hmm. And listening is a skill. It is not usually a skill that we've learned in childhood. We can all hear, unless you have like a hearing impediment. You can hear. We all hear with our ears. But listening is something that you have to learn how to do. So I have a talk that I give all over the place, and heart-centered communication. In that talk, I talk about how to listen with the 3 E's. I say you need to learn how to listen with your eyes, listen with your ears, and then listen with empathy. One thing that we can do very easily is learn how to listen with our eyes. Put the phone down. Put the phone down. There are so many times that someone's talking to us and we're not looking at them. We're looking at our phone. We're looking outside. We're checking emails. We're so distracted. So we can hear what they're saying, but we're not giving them that attention to actually listen. And then listening with your ears is more than just, again, hearing, but it's looking at the things that the person is not saying. Nonverbal communication is huge. You know, it accounts for, some scholars say, anywhere from 70 to 93% of communication is nonverbal. So if I'm not looking at you, if I'm not looking at your slumped shoulders, if I'm not looking at you, you know, twirling your hair or twiddling your thumbs or whatever it might be, I'm going to miss a lot of cues. So I've got to learn how to listen, and then listen with empathy. And empathy is a kind of a buzzword right now. A lot of people are starting to talk about these things more, vulnerability, empathy. But to be empathetic is to put yourself in someone's shoes as that person. That last part is key. Because it's not just, I'm going to put myself in your shoes, but I'm going to put myself in your shoes as you. So again, going back to that example, my husband saying, I feel like I'm on the back burner to your business. I had to listen with empathy. I had to say, how would my husband feel? How does he feel? I'm putting myself in his shoes as him, to see me like excited all the time, to see me pouring out to these people online that I don't even really know that well, to see me putting all of my focus and energy into something, and then being like, I'm too tired. You know, I don't know what we're going to eat tonight. We're going to have to order. Like, what does that feel like? And when I sat in that moment to be like, oh man, I wouldn't want to feel that way. That's heavy. That is what helped me to change.
Mm. Yeah, good stuff. We're talking with Dana and Shay Williams. If you're not too shy, you can call 800-920-1580. If not, carry on. We got a lot to say. We are doing Black Marriage Monday. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose. And millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like
this inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
The closer I get to you, the more you make me see. Like giving me all you got. Your love has captured me.
KBLA Talk 1580, rest in peace, Roberta Flack. Beautiful voice, beautiful person, and an incredible career. She has made her transition at the age of 88. And speaking of love, we're talking with Dana Shea Williams. She's a podcaster, a marriage coach, and more. And it is a Black Marriage Monday. It started out talking about skills and how a lot of this is learnable. We don't have to, all doesn't have to be lost. We don't have to keep repeating the same cycles, right? And I think I wanted to circle back to that before we move on, because communication is one, and you were just breaking down listening, right? The art of really listening, and connection, intimacy. You kind of couched that as a skill.
I did. Yeah. Intimacy, because it takes work to be seen. A lot of us have grown up learning to hide We, again, going back to the baggage conversation, depending on what kind of relationships you were in or the family of origin that you grew up in, a lot of us have learned how to cope with our pain. We've learned how to cope with our hurts. We've learned how to cope with our trauma. And so intimacy is work because it takes work to uncover some of that stuff, to be willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, this is me. Like this is what I've been through. This is what happened to me. This is who I am. And so that doesn't just come naturally for a lot of people, especially if you've learned how to mask that in your relationship.
I feel like the other thing which I've encountered is folks that are not being honest or intimate with themselves. It's not just hiding from their partner, hiding from themselves.
That's right. That's right. And that's where it starts. Again, when I was talking about being honest, like being honest with yourself first, learning who you are first. And this is why the best people to get married are people who have done some work on themselves. If you think that this other person is going to fix you, they're going to, again, make you happy, they're going to fulfill all of your deepest, darkest dreams, they're
going to complete me.
That's not reality.
They're going to complete me. They're going to complete me. Do we need to stop saying that?
You're already complete. That's right.
You're a complete mess. No, I'm just kidding. But I understand what you're saying. You gotta bring yourself in. And one thing that I know I used to do, which I no longer do, what I used to do is sort of disappear into the relationship, like kind of meld myself into that other person to the point where, and then when I decided was tired of disappearing, it's a whole problem. Wait, who's this person? Where did she come from?
Yeah, and then you start resenting your partner, right? But that was your choice. And I can totally understand. I think, again, being married so young, not really knowing who I was, and then wanting to please my husband. And so it's like whatever he thought that I should do or wanted me to do, then I'm like, okay, that seems like that should work. But then a lot of people can identify with losing themselves in their marriage.
Yeah.
And not just physically, not just physically letting yourself go, but letting yourself go emotionally. When I talk to especially friends of mine who will get married and then they stop talking to all their friends, don't do that. Your friends are going to keep you grounded.
Yeah, I did that when
you're going to need those friends.
Right, because, there's nothing wrong with wanting to please your partner, but when I lost track of myself, then what do you have? What are you even bringing to the marriage? But so the question of honesty is one that sounds really good on paper, but in reality, I think little lies and little traditions, they pile up, little deceptions, they pile up, they become traditions.
And they become habits. And habits are hard to break, but they can be broken. That's the good news. So when I'm working with clients who I see that there's been a pattern of deception, and this is why I like to meet with my couples one-on-one, and then we meet together, because I want you to be honest enough to meet with me and tell me, what's really going on. And I'll respect their confidentiality. I'll respect them to be able to initiate those conversations with their spouses themselves. But I want to help guide them to that, because we say these things like, just tell the truth, be honest. But again, if you weren't taught how to do that, and you were also taught how to mask, how to cover, that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, and if you're not telling yourself the truth about what it is you really want, that's a whole other problem. Which, maybe therapy, but something has to happen.
Right.
You said right here that marriages are not disposable. We need to be in it for the long haul. We shouldn't turn away. We should lean into whatever the issue is and figure it out and stay together. Mm-hmm. Is there ever a point where you would tell your clients, maybe this is not going to work?
Yeah, I always leave that up to the couple. I don't feel like it's my place to tell a couple what's going to work or what's not going to work. But there are some cases that I do not encourage further work, and that would be a case of physical abuse for sure. If there's abuse in a marriage, that has to be addressed. That's not something that you can just we need to work on our communication. No, no. There's a lot of other things that need to take place. So abuse would be one of those things. I think repeated adultery, and the reason that I say repeated adultery is because I believe that if you have gone through an affair, if you are repentant and willing to change, first and foremost, and your partner is willing to forgive you, because they don't have to be willing to forgive you and move on, but if they are, then that marriage can recover. That's not always the case, especially people who are caught up in cycles of, affairs and cheating and all of that. I think also cases of addiction. If you've got a spouse and they are, addicted to some substance and that's causing a lot of trauma and turmoil in the home, that's a very hard marriage to try to rebuild, because what's indicative of all of these cases is that spouse, though they may be there physically, they checked out emotionally.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to the fourth, which is apathy and abandonment. If your spouse has left you, like physically, they have left. I was talking to a lady a couple of weeks ago, and her husband literally moved to another country.
Yeah.
And she's like, I
That's
can't
crazy.
get in touch with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to help you, but like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, your husband is literally gone.
It's over
He is
already.
Not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hour has flown by. You're going to have to come back again, and we'll have to do a part 2. But tell folks how to find you.
I would love that, Dominique. So people can find me on my website. I've got a free partner quiz that I want them to take. It's called How Connected Are You? And they can find that at danashay.com/partner quiz. That's DANACHE.com/partner quiz.
Well, thank you so much for being with us during the pot, making folks think about their marriages. And I'm looking forward to part 2.
Thank you so much, Dominique. My pleasure.
And I am going to go to Bell Hooks for my quote. She says, many of us seek community solely to escape the fear of being alone. Knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a jam-packed show, probably an 80-pound show in a 20-pound bag for you again today. Connect with me on social media. I'm at DiPrima Radio everywhere, and KBLA 1580 everywhere as well. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Apple plans to invest $500 billion over 4 years in U.S. manufacturing, engineering, and education, focusing on AI and chip making. They will build a factory in Houston for AI servers and double their advanced manufacturing fund to $10 billion. An Apple Manufacturing Academy will be established in Detroit. New York City plans to close its asylum seeker intake center at the Roosevelt Hotel and other shelters by June due to a drop in migrant numbers. Over 173,000 migrants have used the center since spring 2023, but arrivals have decreased from 4,000 to 350 per week. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries urges Democrats to block a Republican budget plan, warning it could cut Social Security and Medicare and lead to government shutdown. And the How Black Men Smile Project is celebrating 10 years of Black joy amid attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
If you or someone you know is affected by the Los Angeles wildfires, you are not alone. No matter how sad, scared, or heartbroken you feel, Cal Hope is here for you and all those affected by the devastating wildfires. Find free, safe, and confidential mental health support at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA and USC women's basketball teams continue to stay on top of their game. UCLA, ranked 3rd in the country, won a close game Sunday at Iowa, 67-65. Alina Arnasalo sank 2 free throws with 3.8 seconds left in the game to seal the win. Lauren Betts had 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 block shots. USC got 22 points from Juju Watkins to hold off Illinois 76-66. Next up for USC